So welcome. Finish up your beautiful conversations. That's why we're here, to connect with one another. Thanks for coming. Hope everyone had a chance to sign in, get a name tag, say hi to your friends. And without further ado, we'll jump into our first agenda point, which is just we go over our ground rules and adopt the agenda. There are a few copies floating around the tables. And I think there's one more up there. You guys going to introduce yourselves? So our ground rules are we listen to each other, treat others respectfully, which includes respecting our preferred pronouns and the names we wish to be called. We share our opinion politely, and we respect the agenda and process. So we have a pretty full agenda with our August primaries coming up, a number of candidates who are here to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about why they're running and answer some questions. And if you have a chance to stick around a little bit after the meeting to help us collect our chairs and tables and set the room up, that's always appreciated. I know a lot of people do that, so thank you in advance. And my name is Sarah. I also go by Sarah. I use she, they pronouns. I live in Ward 7, and I am part of the steering committee. And without further ado, I'll just pass it on down to the next folks to introduce themselves with their name and pronoun if you wish, and what ward you're coming from.
Hello, my name is Alan Bierke and I live in the Old North End.
I'm Dan Gamlin, the sheriff of Chittenden County, and I live in Colchester.
Mark Leopold, Ward 4. Rex Butt, he, him pronouns, Ward 7.
Karen Butt, she, her pronouns, Ward 7.
Robert Bristol Johnson, Ward 4.
Dave Hartnett, Ward 4.
Sylvia Knight, Ward 7, she, her.
My name is Kevin Bloom. I am a candidate for the office of Sheriff of Chittenden County, and I use they, them pronouns.
Knight, Ward 4. No, Ward 7, I guess.
Amy Bielowski Branch, Ward 4, she, her. I'm on the NPA steering committee, and I'm also a candidate for the House of Representatives. Monica Ivanchich, she, her pronouns, and I'm in Ward 7.
Zoe, Ward 7. Lynn Eisenbray, Ward 4.
Ali Yang, Ward 7, and candidate for State House District 18.
Sally Cook, she, her, Ward 7. Martha Malthus, I use she, her pronouns, Ward 7. Earl Odie, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Ward 4, and I'm one of your state representatives, and I'm running for re-election in Chittenden 18.
Gary DeCarlos, Ward 4.
Humphrey Milan, Ward 7.
I am Jim Whitmer and I live in Ward 7.
Linda Looney, Ward 4, I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Hank Prensky in Ward 4, and I think that the vanilla ice cream is incredible.
Kyle Donovan, Ward 4, vanilla ice cream also.
Brittany Larrabee, Ward 4, Black Raspberry.
Al Belucci, he, him, Ward 7. I haven't had ice cream yet.
Kathy Klein, she, her, Ward 7.
Lizzie Sheehan, Ward 7.
Sarah Campbell, Ward 7. Elian Rivera, Ward 7. She, her.
Amy Payne, she, her, ice cream still pending. And I'm a candidate for High Bailiff of Chittenden County.
Nancy Millichamp, Ward 7, no ice cream yet.
Daniela Dinan, Ward 4.
Whitney Parsons, Ward 7, chocolate chip cookie dough. And this is Sammy, also Ward 7.
Kathleen Miles, Ward 4, Ward 7, she, her.
Laura Castrogano, Ward 4, she, her. And this is River.
Dan Castrogano, he, him, Ward 4.
Susie Haas, she, her, Ward 4.
Brian Haas, Ward 4, he, him pronouns, please.
Barbara Turnbull, she, her, Ward 3, but I'm the city's NPA coordinator.
Dick Coletti, Ward 4.
Elaine Haney, I'm from Essex Junction, and I'm one of the candidates for Vermont Senate in Chittenden Central.
I'm Devin, he, him, Ward 3.
Paul McManus, he, him, live in Williston. I'm a candidate for High Valley.
Hi, I'm Sal Millichamp, Ward 7, she or they, and I'm on the steering committee.
Joanne Hunt, she, her. I'm also on the steering committee, Ward 4.
Hi, Karen Turner, Ward 4. I'm an inspector of elections, already elected, but I do have information on how to register and or the calendar of events for voting, if anybody wants information on that.
I'm Steve Brown, Ward 7 Steering Committee, and everyone's come back and get some ice cream. We got 10 minutes before the actual agenda starts. So, and thank you all for being here.
I'm the last one. I'm Jane McDonald, and I'm in Ward 7, and I use she, her, and I like all the ice cream.
And we have someone online. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Can you hear me? Hi, it's Sarah Carpenter. Sorry I can't join you tonight. I have a little thing going on with my back here, but I wanted to tune in. Sarah Carpenter, Ward 4 City Councilor.
Great. And was there anybody else? Shore's iPad? Shore's iPad, if you want to introduce yourself. All right. Well, thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Susan, and I'm in Ward 4.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And yeah, our next agenda item is our open forum, and that we offer people a chance to make announcements about neighborhood going-ons, events, topics you want to share here, sort of a in-person front porch forum vibe. And while we're doing that, as Stephen mentioned, help yourself to some ice cream. Got one here, and yeah, just put your hand up and we'll bring you a microphone. I see 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Dave Hartnett, wanted to make an announcement about the high school. So we are going to be sending kids there in September, and it is open. It's beautiful. And I want to thank everybody here and every Burlingtonian for voting yes for that high school. It's the best investment we ever could have made. So tours are ongoing. I'm one of the tour guides. There's about 8 of us volunteering to do it. They're Saturday and Sunday mornings from 8 to 9:30, and you can sign up on the website. Pretty much all booked up until July 4th. I will say this, July 4th is open. I volunteered to do it after the July 3rd celebration. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else on July 4th except that high school. It's really special, guys. It's really cool. It's really neat. And so tours will be going on until Labor Day. Right? All are booked up until the 4th as of now. They are going to add some Wednesday nights in. Okay. But August 22nd will be a block party at the high school. Everybody's invited and there'll be tours going on all that day. Okay, so we're not meeting again until September, so obviously that's important. Put that on your calendar. You'll hear more about it. It's gonna be a big celebration. There'll be kids' things going on all day. It's just gonna be really nice. I hope everybody can attend. And if you can't attend that day, I hope you get a tour before the school opens. It is truly amazing. And as I was talking with Sylvia just a little bit ago, we are very blessed to live in this city. It's a great place.
Yay.
So you sign up for the tours by going to the Burlington School website. And you can sign up. Tours are booked until July 4th. But I will say this, I gave 2 tours already and we had 3 or 4 not show up. I would say if you were out walking and it was Sunday morning at 8 o'clock and you certainly came to one of my tours, you'd be more than welcome. Okay? So anyways, yes. You got it. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
I'll see you at 8 on Saturday. I'm Sal Millichamp. I wanted to let everybody know there's a fundraiser for Stephen Tendo next Tuesday, the 30th. So that's June 30th. It's going to be a soccer watch party. And it'll be at the UU at the community, it's down in the basement. It's called the community area. But anyway, we'll be setting up around 4:30. The game starts at 5. It's a BYOB. We will have snacks. Suggested donation is 10. You can bring more, or no one will be turned away. So that's Tuesday, and I think we'll have a surprise guest.
The date
That's the 30th on a Tuesday. Next Tuesday coming up.
at 5.
Yeah, you want to get there early because the game starts at 5. And I do not know who's playing.
So who is it for? And
This is
who
for
it-
Stephen Tendo. It's a fundraiser. He is not allowed to work. His work permit has been taken away. He's going to school. He was working 2 jobs, still has to pay his bills, gas, everything. And it would be great to help support him. So.
Thank you, Sal.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm here from the North End Food Pantry, but I also have Jim Whitmer is here. He does our clothing, and Hank is our treasurer. So we are well represented. Just wanted to let you know, thank you very much for any and all donations that have come in through the community. We are seeing an increase in people coming in to the pantry. We average about 600 people a month. And we are a no barriers pantry. That means anybody can come. And we're unique in the fact that on Sundays, we're one of like maybe 7 or 8 pantries in the state that are open. So we accept anybody that comes in. We're seeing a lot of young moms. They're needing diapers. So we have a website. We have a wish list on Amazon. If you want to make a donation to that, that's one of the big items that we need. 2 other big events that are coming up. Saturday is Odd Fest. And that's the Odd Fellows Lodge is having a outdoor concert and an odd market, and there's going to be a lot of odd bits and things going on, and everything, all the profits from that are going to go to the pantry. We are part of the. We are not part of the Odd Fellows. We are our own 501c3, but we are at the Odd Fellows Lodge because we fulfill one of their missions, which is relieve the distress. Also on Sunday is our next clothing drive. Jim will be running that, and it's also a food drive. That's from 11 to 1. So if you have any seasonal clothing, we're not taking winter clothes. We do take sweatshirts, t-shirts, jeans, those kinds of items, but anything else seasonal, bring it to us, and we'll make sure we have clothes downstairs. We have a boutique for anybody who comes as guests, and it's free. So bring your clean seasonal clothes to us, and we'll make sure that they don't wind up in a landfill. The party is that Saturday, 12 to 8, I believe.
Thank you.
So we're actually also going to do a bake sale fundraiser for the pantry while we all go to vote on voting day. And if anyone wants to help us bake by like making your own favorite recipe at home or bringing it in, you can email me at hay@missweiners.com. Hay is in HA, like cut the hay while the sun shines. But I'll have like some flyers over here. And we did it last time we all voted. I think that what was the fall. And we made like $600 for the pantry, and that was just me baking. So it'd be so awesome if other people bake too, and we can make even more. Yes, on August 11th, primary day.
I'll bake for that.
Steve. Hi, I just want to give a shout out to a local resource that I think we don't think about a lot. I have a family member at Birchwood. I've worked in healthcare for almost 50 years, and it's really quite an amazing place. It's lively. There's a whole variety of people working there, and I think sometimes we maybe don't appreciate it enough. So I'm appreciating it.
Thanks, everybody. One more over here.
Just to let everybody know, the Lakeview Terrace neighborhood will be having their yard sale this Saturday. It'll be starting at 9 o'clock, and it should have between half a dozen and a dozen families. So please come on out, walk around the street, and visit. Thank you. Lakeview Terrace, Saturday, 9 a.m. Until all the stuff is gone.
Amazing. We got just one or two more minutes if there's any other announcements. All right, seeing none. I was just informed that Bram Kranishfeld is going to be a few minutes late. And he is running for Chittenden County State's Attorney. That was our next agenda point. So thinking that we'll just step to the next agenda point, if everyone's all right with that. Yeah, there's a few folks that aren't here yet. I'm like, I don't see everybody. So if we keep moving down our agenda, if folks are okay with continuing through the agenda, or if there's another proposal.
Sheriff's candidates are voting.
They are, as are the folks who are running for District 18, which is the following agenda point. So, yeah, if you guys are all right with that, Carol Odie and Amy and Ali.
Yeah.
If you are all right, general consensus to that. I'm hearing yays.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. And while they're heading up here and getting themselves comfortable, just wanted to make a couple points about our forum process. There'll be some time for everyone to introduce themselves, of course, let us know why they're running or rerunning. And then there will be plenty of time for questions. And we ask that all questions are directed to all candidates about the position and not about them individually, so that they all have a chance to respond to that for the position that they're running for. And I think without further ado, we'll be able to hand it on over to you beautiful folks. And I don't know if you want to start as the current representative, Carol Odie. Oh, well, there's no question yet. Yeah, just we're hoping for 2 minutes. Introduce yourselves. Let us know why you're running. And then a chance to receive questions from your future constituents. And oh, there you go.
Okay. Hello. All right. My husband Paul and I raised our 4 kids here in the New North End. They went to Flynn, Hunt, and BHS. I was on the school board in the decade of the nineties and was chair of that. Governor Howard Dean put me on the State Board of Education. I was chair of that. I was on the Lund Family Center board, I'm on the Stern Center board, and I work right now as a volunteer with the Vermont Bar Foundation to raise money for Vermont Legal Aid. I learned when I was on the school board all about school finance, and I've used what I've learned to get to help to change the funding formula for how we fund education, which has brought millions and millions of tax dollars in tax relief to our city. I also helped to bring the $3 million to renovate the Macy's and the $16.2 million, $3 million to remove the PCB laden high school and safely dispose of it. I'd like to continue that work. It is going to be a huge topic going forward. If I'm reelected, I would like to really focus on that. I also have brought a new source of, this was 8 years ago, sustainable source of clean water funding, clean up our lake. And I have focused on homelessness, and H 938 will be moving away from the motel program and setting up a program that would be state funded and that would be a homelessness response system. That I think is very important to all of us. In fact, this morning I just was meeting with our state senators and the mayor's office, and I have met in the past with also the governor's office and city councilors. Streets are not a safe place for people to live, and we all need to feel and be safe when we're on the streets in Burlington. And of course, protecting our democracy and our constitutional rights is very important and basic. Our Secretary of State is keeping our elections free and safe and secure, and we need to keep due process for all. 30 seconds, okay. Another place to look is there is a study committee about the provision of mental health care in schools, and that is something that I would like to see move to the general fund, taking the strain off of property taxpayers. Because we haven't had income tax increases in 10 years or almost any fee increases in 10 years, but we've seen increases in the property tax, and it's too much. And we've just now used $100 million to lower property taxes. And we've been doing that for 3 years. So it seems like it's become a new, time's up, a new way to keep property taxes down.
Okay, so just say your name at the beginning when you speak.
Oh.
Say it again at the end.
It was Carol Odie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for your service. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Ali Jain. I am running for the Chittenden 18 House of Representatives because I believe that our community deserves leadership that's not only understand challenges we face every day, but also know how to build practical solutions that work. Over the past couple of years, we have had the privilege of serving you all as the Burlington City Councilor for 8 years, working on the hardest issues of our lifetime, from public safety, sale of Burlington Telecom, the pandemic, homelessness, and you name it. And we did it with great pride, with integrity, and with honor to serve people of the New North End. I would like to become the next representative who will represent the Chittenden 18. Right after my city council service, I attended the community health center, and I am now a board member at the community health center. Just to say that I love service, that I love to serve the people. At the community health center, we are working on hardest issues of our lifetime as well. We do not want to say people, you cannot get care here, but we need at the same time to give it to elderly, to people who are homeless, etc. And also, we are bringing every single day practicality in terms of solving the issues from the federal government. Service is in me, and I would like to continue to do that. I am professionally, I have always worked for education. 13 years for the Burlington School District, and now regional manager at Building Bright Futures, where I work with people across the state to look into the well-being of children and families. I am tested, I am vetted, I am ready, and I am asking for your vote on Tuesday, August 11th, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Bielowski Branch, and I'm here today to talk to you about why I think I'm uniquely qualified for this position. I've spent the past 35 years as a clinical mental health counselor in Vermont, primarily working with children and families who've been affected by intergenerational trauma. I've helped foster parents, adoptive parents, grandparents raising their grandchildren, and parents whose children have been in foster care and are now coming home. Through all that time, I've worked with a lot of systems, of which the legislature is a huge system. The systems I've worked with have been family systems, court systems, school systems, mental health systems, and statewide systems, specifically the Department of Children and Families that I have been intimately connected with for the past 3 decades. I've had a lot of practice doing this work. I know how systems work and what it requires to get systems working. It requires courageous conversations about complex topics, and it requires being able to simultaneously zoom in and look at the minutia and detail of an issue and zoom out and see the big picture. I've had a lot of practice doing that and feel that I can bring that to the state. We're living in extremely stressful times. Local concerns about healthcare affordability, substance abuse, affordability in general, housing, transportation, our school systems, a lot of concerns, a lot of national and international concerns as well. Our environment, war and violence and ongoing stress in the Middle East, immoral actions taken by ICE against our migrant immigrant neighbors, and attacks on the rights of women, people of color, and our queer and transgender neighbors, all of which are a cause for loss of hope. Hope that we can't afford to lose. Vermont is made up of some of the most kind, courageous, brilliant, generous people, many of whom are sitting in this very room. Elect me as your representative, and I will dedicate myself into tapping into the resources that exist here so that we can solve the problems of Vermont and that we can join together to resist the oppression of the federal administration. Please vote for me on August 11th. Thanks a lot.
Fabulous. Thank you all so much. And we already have one question right here.
Hi, I'm Jane McDonald, Ward 7, and I won't be voting for you all, but I am interested to find out your stand on the use of nuclear power in the state of Vermont. I was reading that Phil Scott is calling it renewable energy, and he's kind of pushing it, and I want to know where you stand on that.
Thank you for that question. I want to give everyone about a minute or so to respond. And in the order that you introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Thanks for the question, Jane. I feel like I need more information on that. Certainly, I would be very concerned about nuclear energy. I have heard, and this is where I need to do my own research, I've heard that it is significantly safer, but I don't know enough about the issue, so I will look into it. Certainly, if it's dangerous, if it causes significant environmental harm, that's something that I would not support. So that's the best answer I have right now.
That was an excellent answer. I don't disagree. I do know that in France and in other places, some of the newer nuclear it's not working. Oh, some of the newer nuclear generation plants are completely different from 3 Mile Island and those kinds of plants. To me, the biggest concern is what happens with the waste. And so it's something that we'd have to really look at carefully before I could say one way or the other.
There is a reason as to why Vermonters wanted to close that nuclear plant. And I think it's for safety, and I think for environmental, protection of the state of Vermont. But now we are in an age where we have what we call artificial intelligence. I think Mr. Leopold did provide an amazing idea about how can we integrate nuclear, that site, and also artificial intelligence in terms of the data centers. From my perspective, I haven't seen any proposal, but looking into having it on my desk when you all vote for me on August 11th. Thank you.
Thank you all. Any other questions coming up? Right here?
So I don't know if this morning you saw Sarah George's courageous post where she shared 2 pieces of correspondence that she's received, which threatened her life and physical safety. It was heartbreaking and it was enraging. And my question for the 3 of you, and I think for every candidate in this room, is as Vermonters, a state that stands for so much more than that, where our silence signals our consent, what will you do if you are faced with hate, or the people you're running against are faced with hate? What will you do?
Thank you for that question. And from my perspective, I'm also a person of color, a new American, and a leader in this community. Exactly what Sarah Fairchild went through, I exactly went through it. And there was this amount of silence from so many people, including our local officials. The issue went to the court, and the court decided that if you are an elected official, right, people have their amendment right to speak to you in a way. It was the court that decided that, right? What Sarah Fairchild is dealing with right now, from my perspective, is not right. And no one should be living in fear, whether you are an elected official or just a community member. We need to address this, and that's one of my top priorities. How about we all become neighbors? How about we all disagree, but with dignity, but also peace in mind? My heart goes to Sarah with what you're dealing, because I know exactly how it feels.
Thank you for the question. I am the granddaughter of immigrants, and I know what my grandparents went through when they came here, and they didn't speak any English, and it was not easy for them. I also will say that I am someone whose safety has been threatened, in fact, and it happened with spray painting on my garage door at my home. And I woke up and I looked to the side and I saw it and I thought, is this it? Is this when I stop doing what I'm doing? And I thought, no, I am going to keep doing what I'm doing. I have to do that. So,
my heart broke a little bit when I saw Sarah's post. We can't have that exist in our society, and certainly not in our political positions. And I think part of it is we need to name it and confront it when it happens, but it's also how all of us present ourselves. I feel really proud of myself and Ali and Carol that we are not looking to bash you. I want you to vote for me. I'd like to win. However, this is how democracy works, right? We need lots of people to step forward, but people aren't going to step forward if they continue to feel threatened. So it's on all of us every time we're in a situation where we're frustrated with someone, we don't agree with someone. How do we find the language to be quiet. If you can't say anything nicer than anybody, don't say anything at all, right? That's what my mom always taught me. So can we do that, and can we speak up when harm is being done?
Thank you all. I think we have time for one more question. Right here.
Hi, I'm Robert Bristol Johnson. I live in Ward 7. So something that I like to say a lot about Vermont is that has a very high pool per capita ratio. For a state of 650,000 people, there's a lot of cool stuff in this state. But we also have a high trouble per capita ratio. We aren't California, and so we can't amortize statewide problems and costs over more people. There are 30 American cities bigger than the whole state of Vermont. How are we going to pay the bills? Being that we're not the federal government, we can't print money. Any money we get, we got to either borrow or we got to raise it. How are we going to pay the bills when we're only 650?
That's a great question and something I worry about a lot. But I can tell you that one thing we absolutely focus on is that we fully fund our responsibilities in every budget cycle. We make sure the rainy day fund is full. We make sure the unemployment insurance fund is full. We have a 53-week fund for state employees, because every 4 years we've got to come up with a whole extra payment period. We continue to balance the budget. And so that's number one. We have to be fiscally responsible. And then we have to make hard choices. And as we move forward, something that we will, I think, be prioritizing is feeding people who are hungry, and with the loss of Obamacare subsidies, helping people pay for insurance premiums to save both their health and the healthcare system and hospitals.
Thanks, Robert, for the question. I have two thoughts. Number one, we need more people to move to Vermont. We need to help our young people stay here. We're at a critical point in terms of population, so we absolutely need more people to work. So one of my visions is we do some PR, like I know there was some controversy about the paying people $10,000 to move to Vermont. I'm not necessarily saying we do that, but we really need to work hard to get people to move Vermont. The other thought I have is that there was an article in 7 Days about a month ago talking about concern about the legislator creating mandates and laws that there's then not funding for or staff for. And we need to, if I'm elected, that's one of the things that I would try and pay really close attention to. How do we only promote the things that we actually can afford?
That's a great question, sir. Thank you. And I think I agree with both Carol and also Amy. One is about fiscal responsibility, and the second one is about workforce development. It's one of my platforms, which I agree completely with you about. From my perspective, right now, we have more people 65 years older than people 18 and younger. My daughter just graduated from high school, going to college, and most of her friends are not thinking about coming back here, right? We definitely do have a problem of out-migration and also elderly population right here. Vermont is an aging state. From my perspective, the state, the Senate, they passed one act from Hardy called S30. It was for the state of Vermont to identify 3 states around the globe to partner with. And the state identified Senegal, the state identified Macedonia, the state identified Austria. From my perspective, those 3 states can definitely bring workforce from their countries who are already trained to respond to the workforce shortages that we have here. All these problems that we hear from the state of Vermont is because we do not have people here, and I completely agree with both of you. AliJangVT.com is my website. Tuesday, August 11, please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you all. And as with everybody here, I think there's a lot of literature at our welcome table, so feel free to take some as you go. Thank you all for answering our questions. And without further ado, I will invite up our state senate candidates. Nikhil Boyle, Elaine Haney, Martine Gulick, and Tanya Behovsky. Great job, everyone. Same rules apply. And we'll invite everyone to take 2 minutes to introduce themselves and let us know why you're running. Dealer's choice. I don't know. Right in the middle? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I am Tanya Behovsky. I am one of the 3 current senators representing the Chittenden district. I served 1 term in the House, and I am running for my 3rd term in the Senate. I grew up in a poor single-parent household. I'm a graduate of Essex High School, got my bachelor's from Northeastern and my master's in social work from UVM. And despite my education, Vermont is unaffordable for me. As one of the few renters in the State House, I am deeply aware of the growing challenge for working-class Vermonters to simply get by. But I really want to build a Vermont where we all can thrive and we're not struggling simply to get by. I have a private social work practice in Essex where I serve mostly young people, adolescents, and young adults, whose voices I unfortunately often don't see very well represented in the State House or in the policy that we're discussing. I also serve as the vice chair of the Senate Government Operations Committee, where I've worked hard to expand voting access, expand rural healthcare access through our licensing processes. And one of the really bright spots this year was actually expanding our survivor benefit program. So we have a survivor benefit that previously applied to first responders like EMTs and firefighters. And after many years of fighting, we were able to expand that benefit to include police officers, social workers at DCF, nurses and clinical staff at the Vermont Psychiatric Care Home, and corrections officers. And I think it's really critically important that if people die on the job providing a public service to Vermonters, that we do something for their families. So this was a huge leap forward for working Vermonters. Next year, I'd really like to build on the work that I have done around government accountability and transparency, and our state code of ethics, and really making sure that we're rebuilding trust in our Vermont government, because I think that's really important. I also serve on the Judiciary Committee. This year I worked really hard to pass S-209, which is an expansion of protections against warrantless civil arrest. I also worked with Senator Gulick to get S-227 through to protect schools from immigration enforcement and make them safe places for children to learn. And going forward, I know there's a lot more work to do, and policy I've learned takes more than one biennium. So I feel like I've really laid a groundwork to continue building, and S-89 was a perfect example of that. That's a bill that I started working on in the House and was sort of unpassable. And this year we were able to champion it through and get survivor benefits. So I'm really hoping to return to continue building on the work I've been doing. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martine Gulick. I am one of your incumbent senators. I live here in the New North End and I have for 30 years. I serve currently on the Senate Finance Committee and I am vice chair of the Health and Welfare Committee. Before I was in the Senate, I served 8 years on the Burlington School Board with Monica Ivanchich. And before that, I was on this committee called the Burlington Re-envisioning Committee with Cleary Buckley. We were thinking about renovating the high school, but we all know what happened there. It went sideways, and we moved to Macy's, and now we are about to move into our brand new high school, which is very exciting. I just took a quick primer on becoming a tour guide, and I'm giving my first tour of the high school Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Please sign up for a tour if you haven't yet, because it's extremely exciting. Let's see, the work that I have been doing is mainly around education. Because I was a high school teacher for 30 years, because I was on the school board, education is really my wheelhouse. When I was on a call this morning with the mayor and she said, give me a highlight from the session and then give me a low point. And I said, well, a highlight is H 955, the education bill. And a low point is H 955, the education bill. It has some great aspects to it. A lot of the good parts of the bill came from the work that I did last summer on the school redistricting committee. We have some seesaws coming up. Those are cooperative education service areas. We have some merger committees. Burlington will be looking to merge with Winooski and South Burlington. But I have misgivings about the foundation formula, and I hope that I will have an opportunity to talk to you more. I know my time is running out, but it's really hugely important to our community and frankly to our state. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for being here. It's such an important time to be engaging in our democracy, and I appreciate you all being here.
Good evening. My name is Nikhil Goyal. I'm running for Vermont State Senate in Chittenden Central. It's wonderful to be here. Working people are being priced out of our state. We have the highest healthcare costs in the entire country, skyrocketing property taxes, and a lack of affordable housing. I really believe that we need new leadership that delivers lower costs for working families, that fights back against Trump's authoritarianism, and make sure that this is a place where old people can afford to live here, thrive, and retire with dignity. After graduating from Goddard College in Plainfield, Vermont, I went off to the University of Cambridge, where I did my master's and PhD in sociology of education, poverty, and incarceration. And from that point, I dedicated my career to serving the public good, whether it was marching for voting rights with Congressman John Lewis in Selma, Alabama, on the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, whether it was teaching students in prison in New York through New York University, or teaching students on campus at the University of Vermont, or whether it was working for Senator Bernie Sanders at the US Senate on education and childcare issues. I've really focused on making sure that we provide opportunities and dignities to those who have been denied it their entire lives. Now, we are facing major crises in our state on education, on housing, on healthcare, and there are politicians in this state who put their finger in the air and check which way the wind is blowing. I am not one of those people. I look to the evidence, I listen to the people who are closest to the pain, and I make decisions and work in coalition with those who are most struggling. And I'm running on a bold agenda, and I'll discuss this at further length. Universal primary care, a land bank that would rehabilitate the nearly 11,000 dilapidated abandoned homes, housing units across Vermont, taking on big tech and AI by banning social media for children under the age of 16 and taxing big tech to pay for local journalism, protecting our immigrant neighbors by unmasking ICE agents, and just making sure that we address the affordability challenges in every scope. I'm proud to have been endorsed by the two unions that have made their endorsements in this race, VSEA and the Committee of Interns and Residents. I'm building a coalition that is going to fight to make sure no Vermonter is priced out. So thank you for your time.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful dinner and for opening up your NPA meeting to all of us so that we could talk about our candidacies. So my name is Elaine Haney, and I am from Essex Junction, and I am someone who believes in the long game, somebody who believes in working for good over time. And through my experiences, I've learned that success comes from working hard and from persistence, not perfection. And the experiences I had that taught me this were, I just recently completed my 12th year as an elected city councilor in Essex Junction, also a chair of the town select board in Essex Town. I served on the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission for many years and was the chair of the board of Town Meeting Television for many years. I worked for the state of Vermont and the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and believe it or not, I was the person who had to implement the program, Move to Vermont, Get $10,000. That was my job. And I have thoughts about that, but we'll save that for another time. I'm a former small business owner. I used to own a bookstore in Essex, and I'm the mom of 3. So I am running to bring all of that deep community service and deep experience in local government to Montpelier. And bring with me also the practical perspective that comes with that. So I have been going door to door since February, and I can tell you that almost every single person I've spoken to at the door has said to me, I love Vermont, but I am not sure that I can stay here much longer. And I don't think my kids are ever going to come back. And my 3 kids no longer live in Vermont either. And for me, the affordability crisis that we're dealing with has 3 parts. And the first one is that we need to work on implementing H955 and making sure that the needs of Chittenden County schools are met. We are a little different from other parts of the state. I want us to fix healthcare so that Vermonters can actually afford to take care of themselves and their families by deeply exploring universal primary care. And for me, that would also include vision, dental, and hearing. And I want to see more medical service providers so that people can have choices in their care, not have to drive far away, not have to wait months for appointments, and not have to spend as much money. And finally, I just want to say that housing is the key to a lot of the problems we are experiencing in Vermont. We can unlock more housing and bring more people to Vermont and tackle a lot of the challenges we're facing as a result of that. So thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you all for being here. I'll invite any questions. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Questions.
Hello, this is working. What can the state of Vermont learn from the state of Mississippi when it comes to improving the test scores of our elementary school students?
Thank you for the question. You and I have gone back and forth on this issue, and I thank you for that. I was the co-sponsor, actually the lead sponsor on a bill a couple of years back to improve our literacy here in the state of Vermont. When you dig down into the details of the Mississippi Miracle, it's actually quite complex. One of the things that Mississippi does is they hold students back a year. That is not a practice that we do here in the state of Vermont. And it has it's a mixed bag. I think there's some stigma attached to being held back for a year. Obviously, there's some benefit. Often you do improve, with your reading ability, but it is a mixed bag, and it also has a money, an allotment attached to it, because every year that you keep a student in a public school, obviously that costs money. That said, they have really dug into the science of reading. That is what my bill was all about, letting go of the whole language approach and looking at literacy through a science-based practice. So thank you for the question. Sorry, I monopolized.
No, so I was also going to point to the bill that we moved forward, I think it was last biennium, to change how we're teaching reading. We were not teaching reading in a science-based way, and so I think it's also important to wait and see how that works. One of the things I ran into in the schools a lot is we would change something and a week later say it wasn't working. So I think we also need to see how that works. But I also think we need to invest in the supports and services that children need to learn. And that's both within our schools and in our communities. We've tasked our schools to do more and more unfunded mandates, which takes away from the time that is available for teaching. And it also, children who are hungry or afraid of if they have a roof over their head can't learn. So we really need to look at a whole community-centric way that we're investing in children so that they can learn.
I agree with everything that Martine and Tanya just said, and I would add to it a piece of the success of students in Vermont, I strongly believe, is having a strong grounding in civics and understanding how their community works, and that a lot of the education that our kids get comes outside the classroom in the real world. And I would want to see more civics brought back into the classroom and more classrooms coming out of the school and working in the community and learning about their communities.
I appreciate the question and strongly agree with everything that Martine mentioned about some of the nuances of the Mississippi research. As a sociologist, I did a long-term ethnographic study examining children who grew up in deep poverty and had dropped out of school in Philadelphia. And many of the challenges that those children face are ones that folks in Vermont face, especially in the more rural areas of the state. And I believe, as Tanya mentioned, children, when they come to school, don't leave behind hunger and poverty and social dislocation and stress and all the other challenges that come with living in insecurity. And I strongly believe in the community school model to address the whole needs of children. I think I did a lot of work with Senator Sanders on expanding community schools in many parts of our state. North Country Supervisory Union has a family center where they have wraparound services and social and health supports. Those are the types of investments I think we can double down on, and especially the literacy components, making sure that we invest in early literacy and also lifelong literacy. You know, it just doesn't apply just to children, it applies to all of us, and making sure we're exposed to those things. Sorry.
Great, thank you all. We have another question. Yeah, round of applause for that, thank you.
Yes, thank you. We all are talking about affordability because we're worried about it and we're seeing the prices skyrocket. But I don't hear in the conversation anywhere, at least in public, and I'd like to get it out there, is how can we in our country spend $100 billion? We just threw down the toilet on a war. I mean, we are spending so much money on the military. My family's from Ireland. I just came from there. They don't have homeless people, very few. And my relatives come here, they can't believe what they see. There is no way we can fund all these things unless we take on the militarization of our country. So how do we get that into the conversation? What do you think about it? Thank you.
Great question. That's a lot of that is for our congressional delegation, but I strongly oppose the war in Iran. That's billions of dollars wasted when we could be investing that money right here at home. I think we've got to really find ways to be fiscally responsible around education, housing, and healthcare. I think the first and foremost thing we have to do as a state is invest in universal primary care. We are spending $10 billion a year on healthcare alone as a state. That's up from $6 billion just 5 years ago. That's fiscally unsustainable. And so we've got to figure out with a limited amount of money how we can make the strategic investments to lower these costs, because people are being priced out, they're hurting, and things are not getting better. And so we need some real structural change at every level of those issues.
Thank you for the question. I think at the root of your question is not only military funding, which is huge, but also just the incredible wealth gap that we have in this country that keeps expanding. I come from a working class family. I grew up in the 1970s. I am a product of 1970s tax policy where your top earners were taxed at a 70% marginal tax rate. My dad was the beneficiary of the GI Bill. So my family was able to move out of the working class to the middle class, and it was because of those progressive tax policies. We saw this year the big beautiful bill providing huge tax cuts to the wealthy. Senator Vihovsky and I really worked this session to try to claw back some of that money. We were relatively unsuccessful, but the conversations were starting, and we will continue those conversations next session because they have to happen. As the federal government cuts SNAP, cuts insurance subsidies, we have to fill those holes. And so thank you for the question again.
Yeah, I won't repeat that a lot of that is federal funding, but one of the things that was deeply frustrating for me this year was learning how little control we as a state have even over our own Vermont Guard. We have Vermont Guard members that are on the ground and around that were part of the invasion in Venezuela. And what I discovered is once they are federalized, no one at the state level really even knows what's going on. And so there are also changes that I think we can make at the Vermont level to have more control over duty statuses that might help at the very least keep Vermont Guard out of some of those positions. I think the other aspect of affordability too is wages and pay. The gap between what it costs to live in Vermont and what the minimum wage is unacceptable. So we also need to be looking at what are we paying people and what is our minimum wage. In addition to everything that has been said, to make sure that yes, Vermont is an expensive place to live. A lot of rural places are more expensive, but we must pay people so that they can live here, and not simply a minimum wage, but a livable wage, one that allows them to fully thrive and be part of our communities.
These are some very comprehensive questions, and I'm the last person to receive the microphone, so I'll do my best. As far as the federal level goes, until the federal government learns to prioritize people over war, we're going to always have this conversation and spend way too much money on killing and hurting and not enough money on caring. So that's at the federal level. In Vermont, our biggest problem is our scale. We don't have enough people, and yet we also are just the right size to try new things. And so we need to focus on what we can accomplish here in Vermont. And people ask me a lot, what do you, they're in despair, like, what do I do? I can't even figure out what to do to change things. And my response to that actually, I think, applies to this question, which is keep it local. Do things like this, be in our community, help your neighbors, make sure that your local government is accountable, make sure that your local budget is sound. And then you will feel like you are able to accomplish what you want to do to have the kind of community you want. At the federal level, it's not something that we can all control, but we can certainly do things about it at the local level.
Thank you all. I do want to squeeze one more question in, since there's 4 of you and we're all here.
Thank you. I really like that you said in Vermont, we can try new things.
Yeah, no.
I was shocked when I found out we are sending people who are incarcerated to Louisiana and other states. I just was appalled, and then you read where they've died there. I cannot imagine. Their families cannot go visit them. How can we look at rehabilitation? So thinking outside the box, as we Vermonters often do, could we think of a different way?
Excellent question. And I think we can think of a different way. One of the ways we can start is there's been a conversation about building a new women's prison for Vermont, and it was slated to be in Essex, but the Essex DRB voted against that, so it's not going there. So Vermont has a chance to reinvent and reconsider how we deal with women who are incarcerated and how we deal with the traumas that they've experienced and the situations that they've been in and what they're facing when they leave the building, when they're done being incarcerated. We have an opportunity to change all of how that is done. And sending Vermonters out of state to stay in prisons where they are not safe, clearly, is a budgetary decision. And it's a decision that could be changed to keep those folks here in Vermont. But our correction system is vastly expensive, and we could also lower that expense over time by focusing more on serving the needs of children and families and doing prevention work before folks even encounter the justice system. So it's a systemic problem that we need to address.
There are absolutely other ways. I have introduced bills that would ban the use of these out-of-state facilities. I have introduced bills that would ban the use of private prisons. None of them have moved anywhere, and we are going to need community support to get there. I also think we need to talk about who we're incarcerating and why. We could stop incarcerating people for non-violent drug offenses and instead invest in comprehensive community substance use and mental health care to keep them out of the carceral system in the first place. That is both more humane and less expensive and would drastically reduce the number of people that are incarcerated in Vermont, allowing us to bring every person in Mississippi home. So I think there is a lot that we can do and that we need to do. And we're going to need to, yes, think outside the box, but also just do things we know work in other places. But we're going to need community push to get there, because I haven't been able to do it within the State House, but I know that we can do really hard things when we work together. I saw it when I was fighting to protect the teacher and state employee pensions. That was a done deal until the unions came and said no. I was initially the only one that said no, but when the unions stepped up outside, we stopped it.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Sal. In the legislature, we tend to be generalists, and we often rely on each other for information and rely on each other for learning. Senator Vyhovsky serves on the Judiciary Committee, and I often lean on her and ask her questions about what's happening in judiciary. And this is a conversation we have a lot. Criminal justice reform. What are we doing and how can we make it better? But I just want to take a slightly different tack in that we don't only send people out of the state when it comes to prisons, we also send young children out of the state who have behavioral issues. We send young children out of the state who have special education needs. This practice across the board, I find to be scary and I find it to be dangerous. I would like to keep our children, I would like to keep our people in the state of Vermont where we have care for them and where we know what is happening to them on a daily basis. Sending them out of state for me is a non-starter, and we seriously have to take the time to invest in keeping our people here in the state of Vermont.
Thank you for the extremely important question. I have a lot of expertise on criminal justice. As I mentioned earlier, I've taught extensively in correctional facilities, and what is happening with our state's contract with a for-profit prison is against Vermont values. Period. We have to cancel that contract. That is a absolute must. The governor needs to hear from all of us on that. I also think we've got to recognize that we need major systemic reforms within our correctional system right here. When I worked for Senator Sanders, we created the Corrections Post-Secondary Education Initiative, which provides tuition-free community college for incarcerated students and correctional officers and the children of correctional officers. Because we know that college and prison is a surefire way to reduce recidivism and crime and provide educational opportunity for those who often lack it in their lives. And that makes our facility safer, it makes the lives of correctional officers safer, and it makes our society safer. And so I think that's a bare minimum of what we need to do. The second point I would mention is we actually spend more on corrections in the state of Vermont than on higher education as a numerical figure. That is unacceptable. When a budget, as often said, is a document that reflects your moral values. When a state spends more on corrections than higher education, it speaks volumes. And so that's a clear mismatch that needs to be addressed. And the final point I would just make is Senator Vyhovsky and I worked very closely on trying to protect Vermont's Raise the Age law, which allows for children who've been accused of misdemeanors and less serious felonies to be tried in juvenile court rather than be criminalized in adult court. And the governor opposed that. He tried to repeal that legislation. And we know that the juvenile justice system has much lower recidivism rates than the adult system because they have treatment, they have programming, they have therapy and other interventions. And so those are the types of things that we need to double down on if we're going to improve public safety and make people's lives better.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here tonight. I know we can't get to every question, unfortunately. If you wanted to have a last word about the best way to, be in touch, I know, like I mentioned earlier, lots of literature and contact info at the front. Maybe just a last word and round of applause.
Hello, yes, Martine LaRocque-Ulick, Senator Martine LaRocque-Ulick. You can go to my webpage, martinelaraque-ulick.com, or you can email me, or you can stop by. I live here in the New North End. I'd love to talk to you, and I would love to represent you again for 2 more years, and I hope to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Senator Tanya Vyhovsky, my website is tanya4vt.com. You can get my contact information. That's probably the easiest way. My last name's hard to spell and it's part of my email. And I also have literature with contact information up front with Martine.
Thank you. My website is ElaineHaneyVT.com. I'm Elaine Haney and I'm running for Vermont Senate, and you each get 3 votes per senator. So you can choose 3 of the folks sitting at the table here. And my materials are at the back table as well as temporary tattoos, if you're into that.
Hi, everyone. Nick Kilcoyle running for State Senate in Chittenden Central. Thank you so much for the very thoughtful questions. It's been a really wonderful pleasure to meet many of you at your doorstep. I've knocked on more than 3,300 doors. I'm going for 6,000 by August 11th, so I hope to see you in the next couple of weeks. And we're building a coalition to make sure that people can afford to live here. So I'd be honored if I get your support on August 8th. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. And I want to invite Brand Cronenfeld, who's running for County State's Attorney. We did hear from Sarah George last month here. So, yep. And we'll have Brand introduce himself for a few minutes, let us know why he's running. and then we'll open it up for some questions.
All right. Mind if I stand up? Can you see me there? Good evening, everybody. It's phenomenal for me to be back in my home NPA. My name is Bram Kronigfeld, and I am running for Chittenden County State's Attorney because I think that we can get better outcomes from our criminal justice system here in Chittenden County. Just by way of background, I've been living in Burlington for 20 years now. Presently, just about right around the corner from here. I love this community. I love our county. I love Burlington. I have about 20 years of experience as a prosecutor. So for most of the time I've been here, I've been in and around the State's Attorney's Department. I was a deputy state's attorney here in the Chittenden County office for a number of years under TJ Donovan when he was the state's attorney. I was the executive director of the state's attorneys and sheriff's department. I was the chief of the criminal division of the attorney general's office. And I am right now serving as the Franklin County state's attorney. And I love Franklin County, and I'm honored to be the state's attorney there, but Chittenden County is my home. And that's why I'm running here. I think that, you know, so I've developed an approach to the job, okay, over the years. And I feel very strongly about a few things about being a state's attorney and about what a state's attorney ought to bring to the job. First of all, I strongly believe that a state's attorney needs to take very seriously their role as representing the entire community. And what I mean by that is that every single case, when I'm thinking about what does justice look like in this case and what are the best outcomes in this case, I'm thinking about my role representing everyone in the community. It's about empathy, right? It's rare, it's not just important, but it's necessary to empathize with an offender in every case and really think about what they're struggling with and what their life experience is and what might have led them to whatever got them in trouble with the criminal justice system. It's also necessary to empathize with victims in every case and really think about how crime impacted them, how it felt to experience that crime, how it impacted their ability to navigate the world. And it's also necessary to empathize with everybody else who's impacted by crime, with, you know, small businesses whose livelihoods are affected by crime, with people in recovery who shouldn't have to wade through open air drug markets to get to treatment, with people who just want to enjoy our public spaces. So part of being state's attorney is thinking about everybody in the community in every case. Second, I think any state's attorney in this state, including Chittenden County, needs to take very seriously the drug crisis that is affecting our communities. And part of that means leaning into what I think of as a criminal justice system that is an escalator and not a revolving door. And what I mean by that is I think at that when the criminal justice system, and particularly when restorative justice programs and diversion programs and rehabilitation programs are working, functioning properly, they are lifting people up and out of the system by giving them the tools that they need to address whatever underlying issues are causing them to break the law. If there's no accountability involved in those programs, these programs collapse into a revolving door. So doing these, I used to be the drug court prosecutor here. I know how they're supposed to work, and I know that when they work, they work well. They reduce recidivism, but they've got to be done correctly, and that's part of it, is to have some accountability for not showing up and not doing the program. I also think, as far as the drug crisis goes, it means using all of the tools available to the state's attorney to address crime. And I'm sorry, I see my time is up, so I'll stop right there.
Good introduction.
All right, thank you.
Got a hand over here and a hand right here. We'll start with those two folks.
I'm Jan King. I'm from Ward 7. Might have two-pronged questions. How do you see working with a community justice center here in Burlington in your role? And also, what's your opinion about the overdose prevention center?
Sure, great question. I mean, on the, I guess on the community justice center, that's a simple answer. I mean, I try very hard to keep an open line of communication at all times into the community justice center and wherever I'm at. In Franklin County right now, I talk to them just about every day about cases that are coming in, what what services they can offer, how they can make it work for whatever it is we're looking to do. And we do send an enormous number of cases to them through the diversion program. And I used to work here in Chittenden County. I know it works basically the same. Or I imagine it still works the same way. I hope it does. I haven't been here since 2017 as a deputy, but imagine it works the same way. So keeping a line of communication, understanding what the policies are, understanding what services they're offering, so that the prosecutors in my office understand exactly what they're doing when they send a case of diversion is very, very important. Okay. On the OPCs, I feel like I'm not an expert on treatment, and I'm not going to pretend to be. So I will defer to healthcare experts on whether or not that's going to address the serious public health crisis we have with substance abuse disorder and addiction in our communities. I can tell you that as far as it interacts with the criminal justice system, again, I mean, to go back to the CJCs, it's very important for us as prosecutors to understand how the network, the web of services all work together and how they can be utilized and leveraged by the criminal justice system in order to get the best and most just results out of our cases, out of the outcomes of our cases. So that's probably the best answer I can give you.
Okay, thank you. We have a question right here.
Gary DeCarlos. I'm the former executive director of the Turning Point Center of Chittenden County. And people in recovery will tell you, hold me accountable. If I relapse, if I'm not holding my side of the bargain up, hold me accountable. How would you hold people accountable in your roles?
Great question. And I've talked to many people in the treatment community, in the recovery community here in Chittenden County, and I've heard that echoed by many, many people that actually having no consequences for criminal behavior is actually undermines and challenges and is an obstacle to people receiving effective treatment. So how would I hold people accountable? Well, again, in every single case, I'm thinking about what does justice look like in this particular case? And if a person, and maybe to back up a little bit before I go any further on that, I think it's really important for everybody to remember and for us to remind ourselves what the job of the state's attorney is, because I think we have a lot of conversations about state's attorney without really, understanding what the role is supposed to be. In any other state in this country, the state's attorney would be called the district attorney. Okay. And I think we all know what a district attorney is supposed to do. And in my mind, the core of the job of the state's attorney is to protect the public and enforce the law. We can wear a whole bunch of different hats, and I think we should wear a whole bunch of different hats. And it is absolutely necessary for us to try to leverage the system to get people the help they need and meet them where they are. But you can't let go of those first two hats, because if you're not doing it, nobody's doing it. And I'm out of time. So
I want to leave time for one more question if we can.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
There is one. I see you. Do you see one? Here we are.
So this is going to be about cases, a little bit about history, and I want you to comment about. So there's this guy that takes a meat cleaver and kills his wife and almost his mother-in-law. And when you are representing us and your fiduciary responsibility, we are diminished when justice doesn't really happen. And I think that our state's attorney was repudiated when the governor and the attorney general didn't buy this and had the case prosecuted anyway. And it won for exactly the reason why she said it wouldn't. And that's the only case. Now, here's the other end. So I hope I don't get in any trouble, but Bellavance, Officer Bellavance, the body camera video made it absolutely clear that this guy just walked up to the identified offender who's standing there and decked him. And I just wonder what would happen to me, because I've had a little bit of brush with this. You know what? Hey, if I just deck somebody out of the blue, am I going to have consequences about that? And then that forced the city to make a deal with this guy to pay him 3 years' pay to get out of here, to resign. And then the moral hazard of that went, who can I assault so I could get my $300,000?
Is that the question?
Assault anybody.
Comment.
You just don't assault anybody.
Sorry to put it that way, but
I guess in broad terms, I think that it's worth saying that one of the things that we do as state's attorneys is we often, very often, 99% of our cases resolve through plea agreements. And so we are very often crafting sentences in cases, and we're often trying to figure out what does justice look like in a particular case, right? Part of it is considering whether it's a case where, like, you know, rehabilitation is where we're going to put most of our energy, right? So it's an earlier question. I have 30 seconds, so I'll say this very quickly. Sometimes it's about rehabilitation. Sometimes it's about giving people the tools they need to get the help to get out of the system. But sometimes it's much more about deterrence. And in a case like the one you mentioned, it's much more about incapacitation. I mean, that's about taking that's a case that involves somebody that should not be, out. Yeah, right.
Right.
But deterrence is a real consideration, and that means a message sent to that specific offender to say, please don't do this anymore. And it's a message to send to the whole community. You know, to your point, Robert, to say this is going to be the kind of consequence that you can expect if you're engaged in this behavior. And that's it, whether you're a police officer or whether you're anybody. Okay, it has to be done fairly. It has to be done objectively, right? So anyway, that's hope that answers it.
So sorry to drop a bomb on you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here, Graham. Thanks everyone else for also still being here. And up next, I want to invite Abby Duke, who is running for District 17. A couple minutes to introduce yourselves and then a few minutes for questions.
Great, thank you. Is this working?
Closer.
Everyone hear me? Closer, okay.
Closer. There we go.
All right. Thanks everyone, and thanks everyone for sticking late into the evening as well. It's great. It's a great turnout. Great to see all of you here. My name is Abby Duke. I'm a representative for Chittenden 17, which is basically more or less Leddy and South, more or less, in the New North End on both sides of the avenue. I've been a representative for 2 years. I was originally appointed when our mayor was elected mayor and resigned her seat. So I was appointed with 5 days to go in the session in 1994, which was 2024, which was quite an experience.
Okay, closer.
Maybe
I'm just gonna take it out.
Okay. So I was appointed and then I ran for the seat 2 years ago. So I've really served one full term. I moved to Vermont in 1994 I grew up in the Midwest. Settled in Burlington in 1996. And over time, I started out, I was attracted by the quality of life, by my club ultimate frisbee team, by hiking, by skiing, by all the great things we have in this state. And slowly over time, I put down roots. I bought a house actually it was 1998, it was $102,000. Wow. Right? Wild, huh? And it was just on a whim. I was like, I could do that, and I started a business. I got married. I had kids. I got a different house in the New North End now, which I was able to do because I had the other house. I spent 20 years growing and building my business. And if I was starting out right now, I don't see how I would have been able to do that. That path, I don't think would have been there. And I don't think that path is there for my kids or for many young people in our community. So after 20 years of building my business, my catering business called Sugar Snap, I was, I had spent a lot of years working really hard and being really in the depth of growing a business and being an employer and what it's like to do that. And I was looking for something bigger to do in a way that I could give back, and then had the opportunity to be appointed into this seat. I serve on the House Commerce and Economic Development Committee, and I really was interested in being in the House because I bring that perspective of what it's like to build a small business, what it's like to grow a family, what it's like to be trying to drive, be an economic engine in our city. And that is the perspective I try to bring into the House. And so my time's up.
Yeah, we're just gonna want to leave some time.
Great, excellent.
Questions?
We will leave time for questions, and hopefully I'll get your vote. And there's nobody else to vote for, but you could write someone in. You could write someone in if you want. But I'm here for questions, and I'm here for questions anytime too. I'm
Gonna say, if there aren't yet.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody has a question. Kathy has a question for you, Abby.
Oh, this is a question that I also wanted to ask, the Senate candidate. Oh, sorry, okay. So I'm Jewish and I support equal rights for Palestinians. And I know there are folks in Vermont who feel that criticizing Israeli policy, using words like apartheid and genocide, or boycott, that there are people who equate that with anti-Semitism. And I'm wondering about your stance on that issue. And I bring it up because I know that there are potentially legislation coming down regarding the way we teach Holocaust education, and also about how we look at First Amendment rights and free speech. So I think these are going to be matters for the legislature. So I'm wondering how you feel about this issue.
Yeah, I know which bill you're referring to. There was one that was introduced last term or last session, and I assume it'll probably be introduced again. And in it sets up a definition that basically equates Zionism with, or not being anti-Zionism as being anti-Semitic. And I don't support that. I think that obviously I don't support anti-Semitism, but I don't think that criticizing Israeli policies or criticizing what has, the horrible things that are happening in Gaza, I certainly do not think that that is anti-Semitic.
Thank you.
One last question.
Interested, Sylvia here, just interested in what the committees you worked on and what the most important bills were that you felt you worked on.
So the bills that I worked on this term that I'm most proud of are an economic development bill that I worked very hard on, that increased and really it was more about maintaining some support that we give technical assistance for small businesses and micro businesses. Created a financing program called CPACE, which allows commercial, kind of nerdy and technical, but basically allows commercial property owners to take out longer loans for big clean energy projects and flood resiliency projects. Also a bill that came through my committee that we spent a lot of time on that regulates the third-party event ticketing market to really help our venues, including the Flynn, which have been spending a lot of time and money trying to combat fraud. But ultimately, the key things that I think we need to focus on in this state are increasing our population, increasing our economic activity, making it easier for businesses to grow and expand. We have a scale problem in the state. We have 650,000 people. That is not very many people. And without more housing, without more economic activity, it's hard to see how we can get out of some of the challenges, the demographic challenges and the economic challenges that we're in.
Thank you so much, Abby. That's all the time we have for you. And thanks for being a pretty consistent face here at the NPA meetings. So,
I try.
and without further ado, our last candidates for sheriff, I'll invite Kevin Bloom and Dan Gamelin up. And then they'll take 2 minutes to introduce themselves, let us know why they're running, and then we'll open it up for 2 minutes of questions.
Hi, my name is. Turn it on. Turn it on.
Have you turned it off?
Green light, Joe.
Should be a green light. Yeah, it's changing.
My name is Dan Ganlin. I'm seeking re-election for sheriff in Chittenden County. I've been with the sheriff's office for 45 years. I was a deputy. I started in 1982. I'll give you a little bit of background in my family also. So I grew up in Winooski, went through the school system in Winooski, graduated in 1979, went on to Champlain College to get a degree in criminal justice, associate's degree. And from there, I was hired. My first job as a police officer was in Winooski, 1981. I stayed there for a short period of time and moved over to the sheriff's office. I was hired by Ronald Dewell, who was the sheriff at the time, and I worked for Ronald Dewell, Butch Dewell, for approximately 4 years, and then went to work for Kevin McLaughlin, who got elected in 1986. I worked for Kevin McLaughlin for 36 years, and when I first started with Kevin, we had 5 full-time people and 1 cruiser. And today we have 21 full-time people, and we have over 20 plus cruisers and 9 part-time deputies. Over the years, so the sheriff's office is a very unique law enforcement agency in the state of Vermont. We get no tax funding from the state or any local tax. I have the transport deputies that transport the prisoners from the correctional facilities to the courts for the court hearings. They are state employees. Everything else are employed through the sheriff's office, through my contracts. And I have several contracts. That's how we make our money. We run a business. The sheriff's office is a business that we run. Every county, all 14 counties the same way. So I have patrol contracts with like Jericho, Underhill, Charlotte, and Westford. I have private contracts, security contracts, court contracts with the judiciary for court security. So this is how the sheriff's office in the state of Vermont operates.
Thanks, Ken. Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Bloom, and I am running for the office of Sheriff of Chittenden County. In Vermont, a sheriff is not law enforcement. They are elected administrative oversight for civil process. I am running on a platform of eviction reform through eviction prevention to keep children and families housed, get landlords paid, and create a safer community for all of us. I love our community. In the face of an eviction crisis, with evictions up 45% in the last 5 years, we deserve a lot better from this office. Eviction is a tool, but it is not a hammer, and every case is not a nail. Current policy is a knife. Each child eviction in our community cuts deep and ripples outwards. On February 1st of 2027, I will connect tenants facing eviction with a job, with a livable wage, and a hiring bonus to be offered to their landlord through partnerships with local employers. The Chittenden County Sheriff's 2024-2025 audit contained the most material weaknesses or largest red flag that an auditor can give out of any sheriff in the entire state of Vermont, despite stiff competition. Not only did it contain these weaknesses, but it's a second draft. The first draft was so bad that it had to be revised by $1.37 million, or a quarter of the sheriff's budget, before the auditor would sign off on it. I am the only person running for sheriff in the state of Vermont who advocates to abolish ICE, and with your vote, I will be the first elected openly transgender sheriff in the history of the United States. Thank you, everybody.
Vote, time for questions, and if you can keep it to about a minute, that would be great. Try to get some new voices.
Do you support ICE? And how will you interact when they come to town? How will you interact with ICE?
You're already here.
With the fair and partial policing policy, we cannot engage in any immigration enforcement. We cannot ask any immigration status to any individual that we contact with, when we make contact with. We have a policy that's set by the state of Vermont. We cannot ask anybody their immigration status in the state of Vermont. So we do not work with ICE.
So in 2019, a man was stopped driving on I-89 who was held until Border Patrol could arrive by a Chittenden County Sheriff's deputy. There is a history of polymigra between this office and immigration enforcement. I will never, ever work with ICE. I will never collaborate with them. And I'm advocating that we should abolish ICE. We do not need another immigration enforcement agency under DHS.
Thank you.
I'm Bernie Carver, and I want to hear from both of you what you feel should be done to reduce the trauma to children and families who are being evicted.
So the core of my campaign is to reduce the number of evictions we have. I think this is possible by doing eviction prevention work. The Chittenden County Sheriff's Office is going to have to address this eviction one way or another. It is their mandate under law. However, the state constitution also offers the sheriff unique, broad guidance to be interpreted by the person you elect to preserve peace in our community. And what that means to me is to keep children and families housed, get landlords paid, and create a safer community for all of us. And when we do need to evict someone, it can't end with just leaving them on the side of the road with their belongings. We need to include services to actually support people who are facing homelessness.
The sheriff's office do evictions. We execute court orders that are directed to us by the court. It's nothing that we love doing. When we get a court order from a judge, basically telling us to remove, not mostly families, but individuals out of their homes, we have no choice. If we don't enforce or execute the court order, we could be held in contempt of court, and or an attorney for the plaintiff could sue us for damages. So I don't love evicting, and we get a lot of them. I don't love going out and removing families out of their homes, but we're executing the court order directed to the sheriff's office. That's what we do. It's not like it's something I enjoy every day when we do these, but that is reality. We have court orders. Sheriffs throughout the United States, every sheriff's office has to do evictions, not just Chittenden County or any sheriff's office in the state of Vermont, but every sheriff's office throughout the country. This is what they do. They execute court orders directed in civil court by a judge who's directing the sheriffs to remove a tenant for not payment of rent, for criminal activity, for no cause, which is nothing that we can stop. It's an order directed to us by a court.
Your answers. We have one more question over here.
Hello, hello, can folks hear me? Yeah. Hi, my name is Brian.
I have a question, but I just wanted to ask, Sheriff Cameron, since you're the incumbent sheriff, and we've heard Kevin's position, would you state that you would agree ICE should be abolished? Just wanted to clarify that. I heard that you don't want to work with them, but, or don't work with them, but would you say that statement?
Yeah, ICE should be abolished.
Yes.
I think Immigration Customs Enforcement has a role in the United States government, not the way Donald Trump is doing it. But there's a role that they've been for generations. And I don't agree how Donald Trump does his ICE enforcement. But they're an agency within the government. And I don't think that you're gonna ever see that agency be abolished.
And then the question that I have is a little bit more open, and you started to get into it, but could you both just explain how you view the sheriff's role in the community, what that should look like?
The sheriff's office is the highest ranking law enforcement officer in each county, besides the state's attorney. Vermont is unique because we don't get funding from tax dollars. So we have to go out and look for, you want to call it work for your employees. And Vermont, Chittenden County is a little unique because it's populated. And some of the counties that are smaller do not have the ability to have the contracts that we have. I have several contracts. I mean, Vermont Railroad, we do 7 nights a week down there for security. We have contracts with Goldman Sachs. We have contracts with the city of Burlington's parking garage. We have contracts with Hannaford's. Hannaford's is one of our biggest contracts. We do retail theft and apprehension and deterrence. We've made over 1,000 apprehensions in the last 2.5 years in 5 stores here in Chittenden County. We've brought a lot of cases to the court, to the state's attorney's office. So that's our role. We just picked up a contract with Barnes and Noble because they're having a high uptick in retail theft. So we've been working with them 20 to 40 hours a week.
Thank you, Dan. I just want to leave time for Kevin to open the phone. Thank you.
So real quick, I just want to say ICE is younger than me. We can abolish them. We just created them. They're just an agency in DHS. Thanks. So I really like your question. Thank you so much about the role of a sheriff in our community. In the Vermont State Constitution, there are 4 narrowly defined tasks. That is court security, prisoner transport, serving summons, warrants, divorce papers, civil process, and enforcing evictions. Right now, the Chittenden County Sheriff is illegally and unconstitutionally refusing to transport people from prison despite a judge's direct order in contempt of court for people who have served their time or were found innocent. When you look at the Vermont State Constitution, there's also that incredibly broad definition that I mentioned earlier. When you look at the so-called street crimes unit in the Chittenden County Sheriff's Office, each year of its existence, retail thefts have increased at a linear rate year after year. When the Winooski Police switched to a proactive, preventative, community policing model, all areas of measurable crime reduced within 18 months. The data doesn't lie.
Thank you both. We are at the time of the end of our meeting, but I wanted to allow you a few minutes to let us know where folks who have further questions or wanted to learn more about you and stay in touch. To honor everyone's time in this state law.
You can contact me through my email address, dangamlin.com. And that's how you get a hold of me.
You can find me, Kevin Bloom, at bloomforsheriff.com. All of the forms on there, go to my email. I'd love to hear from anyone who has questions. We got some lawn signs here, some campaign lit, and I am happy to talk to anyone about any questions we didn't get to tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the delicious food, and thank you all for being here, everyone. I hope to earn your vote.
Thanks, everyone. And with that, I want to remind us that Karen is here at the welcome table, with information about how you can get your mail-in ballot or where to vote. And August 11th is our primary. And stay engaged, and we'll see you here at our NPA meeting on November 23rd. There's lots of leftovers, so come take food home. It's already packed.